sometimes your sort of interests start at a very, very young age. And, when you think it also can be something that's sparked off by watching something like a great television program. The sort of thing I mean. We don't really get them like that now because obviously with reduced number of channels, they had to fill it, and they filled it with a lot, in my opinion, better programming. There used to be a great show over here for children called Clapperboard, and it was a brilliant sort of tea time thing where it went behind the scenes of all the latest movies, sort of showed you what certain people did, and I truly think that sparked my interest in the world of cinema, how it operated, that sort of stuff. Then, many years later, I met this wonderful man, John Hamp, a TV producer from Granada. And Granada were very big in the northeast, the north of England. And they just made lots of brilliant programs themselves, including the now famous Coronation Street. But each area, Yorkshire Television, Anglia Television, Scottish, Welsh, everybody had. And they made programs that went around the networks. Absolutely superb. It was this one particular program that caught my eye. It was a repeat. And it was a repeat all about cinema. And what was interesting about this program was it had all the big names of the era. Just incredible interviews with the likes of Orson Welles, David Niven, Sophia Loren, and it was filmed in Manchester. And it got me thinking, why would David Niven go to Manchester? Not that there's anything wrong with Manchester, but you know what I mean? Hollywood stars, how did they do it? This man, John Hamp, was the man responsible. And he got me thinking about this story also because he told me that he used to put all the big stars up or have lunch with them in the splendid Midland Hotel. Now this was opened in 1903 and just a wonderful piece of art deco, whatever you want to call it, wonderful architecture of that era. Started to be built in 1898 and just was it was a railway hotel that also had tunnels underneath that could take you to the central station so the rich didn't get rained on, the sort of thing I mean. And you look at it and think, wow, so many famous people have stayed there, including the late and brilliant, of course, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, but so many stars. And as Johnny said to me, the thing is, I'd have lunch with them. Sometimes it would be a bit of a liquid lunch, and then we'd go and film. You wouldn't do that now, would you? Which got me also thinking to a wonderful story about a man that I met who appeared in front of the late and brilliant, again, Queen Mother. This was way back in 1959. It was the very first time that the Royal Variety Show had been performed in Manchester. And this was because they wanted to present the Hallé Orchestra, a wonderful orchestra conducted by Sir John Barbarelli. And, they really wanted to showcase this, hence the reason the show came from Manchester. But the star of the show was none other, it has to be said, than the flamboyant pianist Liberace. Now Liberace, you see, this was a wonderful return to arms for him, simply because he'd missed out on appearing in front of Queen Elizabeth due to that year's Royal Variety Show at the London Palladium in 1956 being cancelled because of the Suez Crisis. Few hours, that was it, the show was gone. Now here's where this story gets interesting, because this is what you find out, what you don't always find in the history books. You see, after the show, the Queen Mother and her party were having a late dinner at the prestigious Midland Hotel. And also, lots of the big stars were staying there. But, it would just be her sort of normal people. However, she spotted Liberace coming back into the hotel, all alone, a little bit dejected, even though he'd been absolutely fabulous on stage. And she was a bit concerned that he seemed so down. And she said, you okay? And according to him, he said, well, it's just the after thing of doing such a wonderful show. She said, and he sort of tried to explain it, that he was a little bit the anticlimax of it, And suddenly she said, well, why don't you join our party? And he, according to this excellent source, said, wasn't really sure, is it the done thing? Is it American? Should it be all this? And she said, well, don't you think I also sometimes have that feeling? You have a wonderful night. It doesn't matter who you're surrounded by. You can suddenly look and think, oh, goodness, I'm with all these people, but you can feel alone. Instantly, they bonded. Instantly, he sat at the table, regaled them with some wonderful stories. She absolutely was, over the moon with him. He became a friend. So much so that whenever he had a new album out or concert in London, automatically he would invite her. She would go privately. They became pen pals, all of that sort of stuff. And what Liberace often cited was the fact that, she just spotted in him that he'd thrown everything into the performance, and yet he was going back to this luxurious hotel in the very heart of Manchester, but very much alone. She didn't like to see him like that, so she invited him to join the party. And what was interesting, apparently, according to Liberace, and this is from a guy that was literally on the same show because he was also there, what was interesting was apparently at the end of the meal, the Queen said, look, we'll have to, wrap it up because these poor staff have got to get to bed, unless, of course, we offer to do the washing up. And apparently Liberace thought, literally, she was serious. And he said, oh, well, I don't mind. And she said, well, actually, neither do I, but I don't think they'll let us. And that's exactly how a wonderful friendship was formed in that great capital city up in the north, of course, of Manchester. If you've never been to the Midland Hotel and you're in the area, just go. It's still as magnificent today as it was when it opened. And what a wonderful, rich history. Neil Sean, Kensington, London.